And all right. So my name is Laura Canham, and I am a faculty member here with the CUPT program. I've been on faculty since 2015, so I'm just about to hit my 10-year mark. And I'm heavily involved in the admissions committee. That's my main role. I also have some teaching roles, and I'm also a graduate of the program. I graduated in 2011, and I still practice in a sports medicine clinic to this day, still see patients twice a week. So I'm really excited to talk to you today as a member of the faculty, as an alumnus, as well as a clinician. So if you have questions in any of those areas, I'm happy to share. And then Natalie, if you'll introduce yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. My name is Natalie Palmer. I am a local from Colorado. My background is in higher education and in healthcare IT, both in rural areas and major metropolitan areas. I came to see you about 2 years ago, and it was one of the best decisions I ever made. There you go.
All right. So when we talk about the University of Colorado, we have four campuses. So we have our Boulder campus, which is our main undergraduate campus, Denver campus. We have our Anschutz Medical Campus, where we are today, and then our Colorado Springs campus. And I bring these all up because we're going to be talking about the Anschutz campus, where our residential pathway is, and our hybrid pathway out of the Colorado Springs campus. So just to give you a sense of where the four University of Colorado campuses are. So I mentioned we have two pathways to consider. A residential pathway here in Aurora, which is just east of Denver on the Anschutz Medical Campus, and our hybrid pathway at UCCS down in Colorado Springs. Now we have two pathways, but we are one program, meaning we have the same curriculum. We have parallel resources. The students are in all the same classes. They're in the clinical education all at the same time. So this image is to sort of show you what efforts we've made to really have parallel resources, facilities, and experiences. So you can sort of see the top row is all of our Anschutz Medical Campus, and then the bottom row is our University of Colorado Springs campus. So when I speak today, I'm going to do my best to say what applies to the entire program and is an umbrella over both pathways, but I'll also be clear when there are differences between the residential campus and between our hybrid pathway. We do have a really robust frequently asked questions page on our website. That's what this QR code is. I'll answer some questions that are there, but there's even questions there that you may find interesting. So I encourage you to go to that website later on and explore for yourself. So when we talk about the curriculum, and again, it's the same curriculum over two pathways, we have a 2.5-year curriculum. So we start in the summer and then we go year round. So 2.5 years later, you would graduate in December. We strongly believe that we thread through our orthopedic, medical, neurologic conditions throughout. We also thread throughout our evidence-based practice, our clinical education, our professional topics. And so this is on our website if you want to see. I know it's a little bit blurry and a lot of detail here. So this is on our website for you to reference. But I want to point out really one important thing here before I move to the next slide, and that's these green blocks. The green are actually all of the clinical education. So you're seeing that we have a clinical education experience in every semester pretty much, and we send our students early and often. So our students actually have their first clinical experience in the third week of their first fall semester. And we really strongly believe that we have clinical education threaded throughout so that students can continuously practice the things that they're learning and they're not trying to remember it all for the very end. So as you're looking at PT programs, some programs might do all the didactic content first and then save all the clinical experiences for the end. That is a philosophy. And just again, I want you to know as you're exploring other programs, what different philosophies you may find. We again believe in this early and often model, and I will go into depth about clinical education here in some future slides. So that's one unique aspect of our program is the clinical education model. The other unique aspect of our program is we have a really robust interprofessional education and development sort of course series. And the reason it's so robust is because the Anschutz Medical Campus is a interprofessional campus. And what I mean by that is all the different healthcare disciplines, so PT, nursing, pharmacy, MD, PA, dental, public health. I mean, I could keep going. We have all the health disciplines at the Anschutz campus, and we have the ability to have a threaded course with all the students of disciplines together. So you might be in a small group with a dental student, pharmacy student, medical student, and you'd be working through case scenarios, ethical scenarios, learning about each other's scope of practice. This is purposely embedded in the curriculum of all of the disciplines at the Anschutz Medical Campus. And because our hybrid pathway, those students are technically Anschutz students, they just have their coursework done separately. They are enrolled in all of these as well. So just because this is a hybrid, we have a hybrid pathway, doesn't mean they aren't also participating in this. We have a hybrid version of this model. And so all of our students, again, have a really robust interprofessional education. So these are two things that we like to highlight in our program. I'll add maybe one more thing, which is, again, something to think about as you're comparing different programs. And that is looking at whether or not research is required or if it's more of a clinical focus. So our program, while there's a robust amount of research opportunity, and I can talk a little bit more about that later, we don't require it. So some programs do require some type of research project or research sort of course that students are required to complete. We do not have that, again, as a requirement. So just as you're looking around, seeing what's in the curriculum, seeing what's expected of you, again, research is available at our program if you want to do it. We just don't require it. So as far as the next slide, diving a bit more into clinical education. So I do see there's a question there about the ICE assignments work. So I'll dive right into all of those details. So in year one, I mentioned that you have your first experience in the first fall. That's actually a collaborative experience. That's what ICE stands for. It's an integrated clinical experience. You have teams of about 4 or 5 students, and you're sent together to a clinical site. And that's 2 weeks in the first fall. And when you're in clinic, you don't have any class. So you're in clinic full time during that period. You would go to the same site with your classmates as assigned, and have that immersion 2-week experience. Then at the end of year one, you have your first independent experience. This is an 8-week experience in the first spring. Year two, you actually, with your same group, now go to a new place for 2 more weeks. So usually we try and have inpatient as one, outpatient as the second one, or vice versa, but so that you're getting 2 different experiences for your ICE weeks. And so again, fall 2, you have the same group going to a new site for 2 weeks, followed by a second independent clinical experience, that's 10 weeks. And then all of our students have a cumulative experience of 16 weeks. That's what they finish with before graduation. And then I'll tell you a little bit more about our post-graduation opportunity that a handful of our students participate in. So I'm going to dive into each of these a little bit more. So ICE, those are local and they are assigned. And by local, what I mean is for those who are part of our residential pathway, they would be assigned a clinic, either inpatient, outpatient, in the Denver metro area, so that your counterparts and your group will all be able to access that location. They're assigned because these are these short 2-week periods, and we really want to give you the breadth of experience. Again, one of them will be inpatient, one of them will be outpatient. For our hybrid students, we're actually really excited that we've been able to figure this out because to our knowledge, none of the other hybrid programs have been able to facilitate an integrated clinical experience because it is challenging. Students are coming from all different areas. So what we've done is we've integrated our first and second ICE as part of our lab immersion time. So students will come in the fall for their lab immersion, and part of the time they'll be doing the labs, and part of the time they will be in Colorado Springs in their ICE experience doing clinic with their classmates. So it'll be maybe mornings in the labs, afternoon in the clinic. So we have been able to integrate it. We're really proud of that. Again, to our knowledge, we're the only program that has been able to facilitate a group clinical experience for hybrid students. Clinical Education 1. Again, this is your first independent experience, 8 weeks long. We have both in-state and out-of-state locations. We have locations all across the country, including Hawaii and Alaska, and we've worked really hard to build those relationships. So what I mean by that is our goal is not necessarily to have more. Like we have hundreds of sites. We don't necessarily want to acquire more. We want to have partnerships that are really lasting, that they share the same values we do. We know that they'll take students over and over again. We know the quality of the experience that our students are getting. So we've worked really hard to maintain these relationships and again, have both in-state and out-of-state experiences. What you'll do is every student is given a clinical education advisor, and you and your advisor will work together since the beginning of the program to talk about what your interests are, what your past experience is. So maybe you were an aide or you observed in certain clinics to help find a suitable placement. The first rotation, though, is you probably have the least amount of say. So you'll give a lot of input, but ultimately they'll place you somewhere. But again, not without your input and without you expressing what your interests are and trying to think longitudinally to work you towards your goals. So you will be placed for this first 8-week experience. The second experience, the independent experience, is a 10-week experience. That one you have a little more say. You're given a full list of all the available options, and then you're asked to rank order them in your top 10. So you'll order out of all the lists of, or all those sites available, rank order your top 10, and you'll, through a lottery system, be matched with the site that will be yours for that 10-week experience. And then finally, again, all students finish with a 16-week experience. Again, this can be in-state and out-of-state. And this one you'd have the most say in your CE3. You actually apply an interview. So you're writing a cover letter, you're sending in your resume, you're applying, you're interviewing, and you're seeing, do I like this site as my final rotation? This is the one that is sort of your launching point into your first job potentially. And so a lot of students, again, are starting to steer towards the direction of, well, I think I want to do, maybe home health. So I want to apply an interview for those sites. Or I think I want to do pediatrics. So I want to apply an interview for those sites. So that is the final rotation. All of our students would then graduate, and that would be the culminative experience. Now, we do have a handful of students who take advantage of what we call our post-graduation internship. And this is where they would actually return to the same site for 8 more months. So they would spend a year total there, 4 months before graduation, 8 months after graduation. During the pre-graduation, they would take their board exam so that when they graduate, they're licensed and ready to go for the next 8 months. So you can be a paid licensed physical therapist at that point. You're choosing this though because of the additional mentorship time. So this 8 months post-graduation internship is specifically designed for people who want that additional mentorship, who maybe are nervous about that first job position. And so they are seeking something that will sort of help them transition. These are paid experiences, but again, because of that mentorship time, these clinics usually offer a reduced salary, usually around 75% of what is an entry-level salary. So again, we have about 10 to 20% of our students in each cohort who complete this, and there are very personal reasons for why people may choose this. So I mentioned the mentorship component, that might be one. Some might apply an interview for sites based on location. So for example, maybe you want to move back to Illinois and you are going to apply to all the sites available in Illinois so that you can be close to home. And that might include both CE3, where you have 16 weeks and you graduate, and post-graduation opportunities. You may apply to both. Same thing if you're interested in maybe a particular practice type. So for example, you want to do pediatrics. Maybe you apply an interview to both CE3 and year-long experiences because you just want to practice in pediatrics. You want to give yourself the best opportunity to be placed somewhere that would have that. So you would apply an interview for both. So again, students have options. They can do just the CE3, which is 16 weeks, 4 months before graduation. And then if they apply an interview and are selected for the year-long internship, it would be 8 more months post-graduation. So 1 year in total, 4 months before graduation, 8 months after graduation. Now, I've mentioned, I do see a question about where the hybrid pathway is. So that is at our Colorado Springs campus. And again, we do have that ICE opportunity so that when students go to their lab immersions in Colorado Springs, they would have a clinical experience with their collaborative one with their classmates in Colorado Springs. As far as all clinical experiences, we want a breadth of experience. So I've mentioned a few times that one of the ICE will be inpatient, one will be outpatient. We want to make sure that you have a breadth of experience. So you can't have all of your rotations in the same setting. They can't all be outpatient. They can't all be inpatient. You have to have some breadth of experience. And then we also require that each student do at least one rotation in a rural or underserved setting. And that's because that's one of our program's missions and values, is to serve our rural community and to those who are underserved. And that might be patients who are homeless, patients who are uninsured. And so, for example, let's say you live in Denver and you can't relocate to a rural community. We would place you in an underserved clinic here in the Denver area. If you're able to go to a rural community, for example, as a student, I went to 2 rural communities for my rotations, and that's an opportunity for you to, again, help our greater mission of serving Colorado. And Colorado, as a larger state, is, largely a rural community. So that's part of our mission in serving our state. And so we do require that of our students. So at least one rotation in rural or underserved. I'm going to pause here. I did see some questions coming through. I think I answered some as they went, but any other questions specific to clinical education and the curriculum sort of broadly?
Hi,
Feel
Laura. Brooklyn
free.
asks, how do ICE assignments work with the hybrid pathway?
Great question. So as I mentioned, with the hybrid pathway, the ICE would happen concurrently with the lab immersions. So you would be coming already to Colorado Springs for your lab time. And we'll talk a little bit more of what that looks like, the structure of a semester and where lab immersions fall. But during those weeks of time, you'll have lab maybe in the morning and clinic maybe in the afternoon. And same as our residential pathway, you'll be given a clinical education advisor. Every student gets a separate clinical education advisor, and those advisors help you with your independent rotations, sort of pick where you will be assigned to go to, or help advise you on where to apply to when you have more say. But they're also responsible for those collaborative ones where you have groups of 4 or 5 students, of pairing you together. So you'll be paired together automatically with a group of 4 or 5, and you'll go, that group stays the same. So in fall 1, your first ICE experience would be, again, a group of 4 or 5 people, and the same group of 4 or 5 people would go to ICE 2 the second fall a year later. And the students love that because it's a chance for them to be with maybe classmates that they don't work with as regularly as maybe those that they've become friends and study mates with, but also to see the growth from the first fall to the second fall on clinical decision making, confidence with doing a patient subjective, doing hands-on skills. They get to help each other through that and get to sort of witness that. So the students really love this collaborative experience. Any other questions about clinical education?
And then Jesse, you asked a question, where is this program at which branch campus? But I'm not clear what you were referring to. Did your question get answered or do you still need some information?
And I took that again as just a reminder of we have one program, University of Colorado. PT has 2 locations. Our residential campus is at the Anschutz campus in Aurora, and our hybrid pathway it has their lab immersions in Colorado Springs. And we'll dive here in this next section about each pathway specifically. So what's a day in the life of a student like? So let us know if we didn't answer that question, but I'll go ahead and move forward. And I'm going to start with the Anschutz campus. So as I mentioned, Anschutz is just the next, Aurora, Colorado is the town just east of Denver. So you can be downtown within about 15 minutes from our campus. You can be to the mountains in about an hour. A lot of our students come because they really want to take advantage of the recreation and go skiing and go hiking and be close to the mountains. So many students absolutely take advantage of that proximity. But what does the day in the life or a week in the life of a student look like? Well, we have, again, I mentioned our interprofessional campus. We have education buildings specific to the campus, and that's important because our campus is huge. We have 4 hospitals on campus, our university inpatient and outpatient, Children's Hospital, and the VA hospital. So 4 hospitals, we have all the different medical disciplines, an abundance of research, and then a lot of other campus offices and buildings. And so amidst that huge campus, we do have some PT specific space. So we have 2 PT labs dedicated just to our program. And that's what you see in this lower left photo. The upper left photo is a picture of a lecture hall. And the PT labs, again, are accessible just to our students. So these students have badge access. They can go in 24/7 if they want to practice a manipulation at 2 in the morning, they can do that. And you see in these pictures, these awesome video screens and projector screens, and some of the technology. We call it a simulcast capability. And what that means is that we have video cameras in the ceilings as well as microphones throughout. So the students can see what's happening at the front of the room, even if they're sitting in the back. Or we have two classrooms. So if they're in the other classroom, they can see live what is happening on screen. And we record every lecture and lab so that, let's say they're demonstrating a technique at the shoulder and you kind of forget where you were supposed to put your hands. You can go back and study that and review it later. So we have the ability here to, again, have two classrooms going at the same time, which allows us to have a ton of space. We have a lot of lab instructors. We average about an 8-to-1 student to teacher ratio in the labs. And we draw lab instructors from around the Denver area, but a lot of people come directly on campus that work at Children's, that work at the VA, that work at university. They just take a break in the middle of their day and come over to the labs to help with the lab immersions. And this is the DPT program, correct? This is the Doctor of Physical Therapy program. Just to be clear in the questions there. We also have anatomy cadaver lab. So our students go through a dissection, cadaver dissection. We have 2 full semesters of anatomy. So the first summer and the second summer, 2 full semesters. And the students, again, are dissecting cadavers themselves in groups, usually groups of 8. And then we split that group so that 4 people are in an A group, 4 people are in a B group, and they alternate each day who's responsible for dissecting. So they take turns in achieving the full dissection of what they're doing. So we have just beautiful facilities here at Anschutz, and our students are absolutely lucky to have these nice resources. As far as sort of the day, we tell students to think of it like a full-time job. So you're in class from 8 to 5 some days. Some days you maybe start a little late or maybe you end early. You'll always have a lunch break from 12 to 1. You'll see in this upper left photo playing spike ball. Our students take their lunch break seriously. It turns into recess, volleyball, basketball, spike ball, frisbee, you name it. They're out there playing and sort of decompressing. We typically have 2 to 3 hour class sessions where we would have 10-minute breaks sort of between the hours and then a 10-minute passing period. And then labs could be anywhere from 2 to 4 hours in length, depending on what the lab is. And then as far as housing, we don't have any housing on campus. This is a graduate and professional campus only. I say that though because we have apartment complexes literally behind the parking lot. So in this lower photo is a really nice aerial view of the education quad, as well as our main administrative building. And just behind these buildings is a parking lot and some apartment complexes. So those apartment complexes have 1, 2, and 3 bedroom apartments. So many of our students live there. Some of them live with fellow PT classmates. Others maybe live with students of other disciplines. Maybe they live with a nursing student or a dental student. Many students live within biking distance to campus. We have a lot of safe bike lanes and bike racks. And then we also are directly on our light rail and bus route line. So for public transportation, you can come direct to campus on the bus line as well as the light rail. And so we have students living all over, just sort of suiting their needs. We do facilitate a Facebook group. So as soon as you're admitted to our cohort, you are invited to a Facebook group. That's how we at least initially join everybody together. And that's where people ask, like, hey, I'm moving. Who needs a roommate? Who can tell me this? Where do I find scrubs for lab? Where do I find this thing? We facilitate that. And then we also have a campus student service office. So for example, let's say you don't want to live with a fellow PT classmate. You want a little bit of space, during your study time, your evening time, but you're happy to live with, again, maybe a nursing student. You would go to campus student services where they would have a lot of these lists and available for you to search what you need. So we do facilitate those things. As far as UCCS goes, looks different. So now we're transitioning to our hybrid pathway. So what I mean by that is it's the exact same, again, curriculum. You saw that initial map. You're taking the same classes the same semester as the residential students, but now your classes are held in a virtual space. So this is different than COVID. We have hired an entire faculty that are experts in hybrid education and delivery of online materials. So this is a very purposeful delivery of the content. We have students in class live, and what I mean by live is just like we are now. You might be expected to be in class, what is today, Wednesday, from 10 a.m. Mountain Time to noon, where you're on Zoom, you're on camera, you're interfacing with your classmates. So there are weekly live class times. You'd expect to be live at least once a day. And so we tell people, again, this is a full-time job. You are expected to be in class potentially anywhere from 8 to 5. When you're not live, you'll also have asynchronous materials. Maybe you have modules to watch, readings to do. So while you might be in class a little less than the residential students in terms of that live time, you will still have the same amount of work to do, the same things to cover. Again, it's just delivered a little bit different. It's delivered specifically to be maximized and optimized in an online and hybrid way. Now, students are required, though, to come to campus about twice a semester because physical therapy is a very hands-on profession. You need to learn all the hands-on skills. So you come to Colorado Springs 1 to 2 times a semester. This could be anywhere from 5 to 10 days in duration. And when you come to campus at UCCS, Colorado Springs, you would be responsible for your own housing, your own travel. So let's say you live in Michigan and you are just going to fly for the lab immersions. You would be responsible for the flight and whether it's an Airbnb, maybe you live with a classmate who lives in Colorado Springs during that time. It is your responsibility, though, to handle the cost and logistics of that travel. The Hibble Center, which is the upper left photo that you see here, is where our labs are held. We have, again, PT and cadaver lab space. And it's also housed of an actual outpatient sports medicine clinic. So Centura has offices, physicians, exercise physiologists that work there. Students have access to be able to go and see and utilize some of those resources. It's also where the nursing program, exercise physiology, nutrition are all housed here. So this building alone is very interprofessional and in a different way that Anschutz is. They have different people that they can interface with different priorities on a day-to-day basis. The hybrid students also have a Facebook group and campus student services available to them as well. So if we think about what the semester might look like, here's an example of a summer semester. So 11 weeks long. You'll see here that maybe the first 5 weeks you're remote, and that week 6 you go in for your lab immersion. So that's 1 week long. You're in class pretty much 8 to 5 full. We call this sort of summer camp. You are in lab and you are doing this immersion experience. Then you maybe go back to your virtual learning for 4 weeks and then finish finals week with your second lab immersion. So this may be what a semester may look like as part of the hybrid pathway. I'm going to pause for a second and let Natalie talk a little bit more about Colorado Springs as she is very familiar with Colorado Springs. Natalie, I'll have you take it away.
Yeah, happy to do that. I grew up in Colorado Springs, graduated from high school there, and my parents and my in-laws still live there, actually on either side of the UCCS campus. So I drive past it, getting between their houses. I'd say there are a lot of things that make Colorado Springs a great city. Three of the things that you might identify with the identity of Colorado Springs are number one, nature and outdoors. In the upper left-hand corner, that's a picture of Garden of Gods, which is about 15 to 20-minute drive just down the hill from the UCCS campus. You'll also see beautiful Pikes Peak in the back of just about everything you do. You can see it from campus. And a short drive will get you into the foothills, into Pikes Peak National Forest, or just down the street, there are large recreational parks available throughout the city. The second is the Olympics and professional athletics. So on the upper right-hand side, that's a picture of the Olympic Training Center. So this is where our Olympians and Paralympians are based out of, and you will sometimes see some of the athletes participating in training, both Olympians and Paralympians, at the Hibble Center. And the military is also a large part of Colorado Springs' identity. At the bottom, that's the United States Air Force Academy. You'll also find Peterson Field, Fort Carson, NORAD. So just a large part of the identity. There are lots of great restaurants, lots of great recreation, and UCCS is on the bus line. There we go.
Thank you, Natalie. More broadly, when we speak to both pathways, we get questions from prospective students of, can I work while I'm in school? And I want to remind you that a doctor of physical therapy program really is a full-time job. And so while we do have some students work and they find flexible positions, so maybe they are, DoorDash drivers, maybe they work, in a coffee shop on weekends only, maybe they work at the library on campus where they can study while they're working, or maybe they help out in some of our research labs as a student assistant. So we do have some students work, we've asked on average about 6 to 10 hours a week. And while the hybrid pathway might allow for a little more flexibility, again, some of the content that you receive is more asynchronous, where you could be a little more flexible with your time. We really do find that students doing more than about 10 to 15 hours a week is a significant challenge. There is no part-time option. Again, you saw our curriculum list. Each semester is packed with anywhere from 11 to 18 credit hours. PT is your full-time job. All right, I'm going to pause. I see we have some questions coming in. We have, do immersion lengths differ when students are in full-time clinicals? Good question. So maybe because of, again, when the clinicals fall. So we would plan the immersions accordingly, though. We still need to get you in to teach you the lab experiences, the hands-on experiences. So while you do have some semesters that are cut short by being in clinic, again, that might be shortening the immersion, but that might just condense it a little bit. But we, again, need to have you in lab as much as we would for the residential pathway during these immersion experiences. Let's see, the next question I see is, are there clinicals available on the Air Force bases? Good question. I know that we have a lot of clinical experiences spread again throughout the country. I'm not sure specifically about at the Air Force Base or on specific military bases or campuses, but I do know that we have several of our students in VAs across the country, which are serving our veterans and our military personnel. Are specific scholarships available for DPT students? I'm going to come back to that in a future section. Separate application, it's one application, and Natalie will talk about that again when we go to that portion. And then are the clinicals in a hospital setting? So as I mentioned, we as a accredited institution have to allow for a breadth of experience. We want you to experience anything from inpatient to outpatient to nursing facilities to home health to pediatrics to geriatrics to the emergency room to the ICU. So while you may not be in every single one of those, our job is to give you breadth of experience, and so you will not only be in a hospital setting. All right, so I want to tell you a little bit about the values of our program. One of our values is to really serve our community, so we have a really robust service learning list of opportunities. I'm going to highlight just a few, but we have plenty. So what I mean by service learning is to be able to take what you learn and apply it in a service-oriented way. So we have something called Stout Street. That's once a month. Our students go downtown to Stout Street Clinic in downtown Denver, and they treat patients who are homeless or uninsured. This is a full afternoon. They have faculty preceptors, and they see any patients that show up that afternoon. Our Dawn Clinic is here on the Anschutz campus, and it's an interprofessional clinic, meaning we have sessions with the medical students, dental, pharmacy, PA, all of them. One day of each week or every 2 weeks, we have an interdisciplinary clinic. So a patient could come in and be seen by several providers. They could be seen by a team of maybe a nursing student, pharmacy student, PT student, and collectively that team would decide what this patient needs. So maybe they need imaging, maybe they need medication, maybe they need crutches. This team would decide what is necessary. And if during that visit they're deemed appropriate for physical therapy, they're invited to come back on a separate night, a PT specific night. Patients have a full hour. They can be seen by a team of 2 PT students and a faculty preceptor, and they have a full evaluation and treatment. Many patients come back 4 or 5 visits. So this isn't just a one and done because these happen weekly or monthly in terms of these clinics. Many of our students participate in this both as clinicians, so practicing being the clinician, as well as we have several that serve as translators. We have some that maybe are a little bit more intimidated by the treatment side, but really want to be involved. So maybe they're schedulers, maybe they call for appointments, maybe they help with documentation and so on. So our students are really involved in the Dawn Clinic. Rusty Gloves is a renaming of Punching for Parkinson's. That's what you see in this upper right-hand photo. So we have sites across the Denver and Colorado Springs area, even up through Boulder. And these students are helping patients with Parkinson's disease. So what we know about Parkinson's, it's a progressive neurologic disorder, and there's unfortunately no cure. However, we know that high intensity exercise can slow the progression. So we have patients with Parkinson's doing high intensity exercise, such as boxing and battle ropes, and again, so more your high intensity classes, and our students help facilitate these workouts with them. We do what we call outreach, which is going to middle schools and high schools to teach kids what PT is. So imagine going to a sixth grade PE class and telling those students what PT is, and PT could be a career they maybe are interested in someday, and more. So this bottom left pic or bottom right picture here is our students going to the state capitol on legislative day. So we had a huge team of students and faculty go to the capitol and talk to our Colorado legislators about topics that are important and relevant to physical therapy. These signs say choose PT, and this is in reference to utilizing physical therapy to treat pain instead of opioids for pain control. And then UCCS is our hybrid pathway. It's a little more complicated because, again, our students are only coming to those immersions periodically. So they have their own sort of unique opportunities. The campus is an undergraduate campus, and they have all their own clubs and service opportunities themselves. So some of our students participate in things that also undergrad students are participating in. But we are working to sort of blend and create more opportunities for our hybrid pathway students. We also are committed to representing the state of Colorado within our cohort, those that are hired as staff and faculty, and really an inclusive excellence. So we want a sense of belonging, community, support, shared value system. And what I mean by that is we are looking to recruit and retain students, faculty, and staff of all diverse backgrounds and perspectives. We want to serve our community. And if we use Colorado as an example, again, we have an urban community, we have a rural community, we have veterans, we have young people, old people, all alike. So we want to be able to serve that full community. Having this sense of belonging, community, fostering that shared values helps with career development, helps foster respectful discourse, helps prepare students to be leaders for practicing in diverse communities. It helps with our research agendas as well as our education. It helps with our community partnerships. So not just our clinical education sites, but maybe those that we're serving around the community. And then ultimately, our goal is to just better serve healthcare utilization across the country and across the state. So these are some of our values at CU that we really wanted to highlight for you. So I'll pause here. Questions? And Natalie, I saw that you're answering some in the chat. Are there any that may need to come back to?
I think we've got them for now. Thanks.
Okay. All right, so my last section before I hand it to Natalie is the nitty-gritty of the money details. So someone asked about scholarships. We'll talk about that here. So we have our tuition based on in-state and out-of-state. Our one really cool thing though about Colorado is that if you move to Colorado, if you've lived for Colorado for a year, you can establish in-state tuition. And not a lot of programs or states do that. If you're not in-state to begin with, you pay out-of-state tuition for the entirety of the program. We are unique in that once you've lived in Colorado for a year, you can be an in-state resident. And it requires usually 4 things: to have a permanent Colorado address, obtain a Colorado driver's license, register your vehicle to the state, and then register to vote. So once you do those 4 things, our Office of Residency determine a date of which you become a resident, and exactly a year from that date, you're eligible for in-state tuition. We have 116 total credits, and our tuition is based on credits. You see the breakdown here per year. So we have 2 full years and then our third half year. I'm going to go to the next slide, which shows we have the summer, fall, and spring of 25 credit hour, and you'll see the difference between Colorado resident and non-resident. And it is pretty substantial. So many of our students are thrilled to take advantage of the opportunity to become Colorado residents. If you are in state the entire time of your education, you would be paying just under $73,000. This is utilizing this 628 per credit hour to calculate this number. If you're an out-of-state student and you choose to move to Colorado, so if you're in our residential pathway, you have to move to Denver because you have to come to class every day. But our hybrid pathway, some of our students do choose to move here, some of them do not. This is a personal choice. So for those that move here at the beginning of the program and establish a year of that year of residency, they would pay out-of-state tuition the first year and then in-state tuition for the second and third half year. And that total comes to just about 104,000. And then for a hybrid pathway student, they could live out of state the entire time and just come to UCCS for the lab immersions. And that total is just below about 153,000. Now, some of you may look at this and go, holy cow, that is such a huge range. Why would anyone want to be out of state? On our FAQ page, we actually mock up 4 different scenarios. So for example, someone living in Denver, we include cost of living. I saw one of the questions was, what's the cost to live in Denver? That's very different than maybe if you were to live in Salt Lake City or if you were to live in Iowa. And so your cost of living for 3 years matters. The cost of rent, the cost of relocation. So it's not just tuition when you're thinking about how your financial picture looks over the next 3 years. So again, on our FAQ page, we have 4 scenarios where we've mocked up the differences, and you can sort of see why maybe someone's situation may lend them to choose one option over another, or, do I move to Colorado? Do I not move to Colorado? What should I do? So just to give you a sense of this. When we look at the top 20 programs, so we're very excited. We were ranked number 11 according to US News and World Report. We're very proud of that ranking. When we look at the other top 20 programs, this is where we fall when it comes to in-state tuition. So not only are we a top program, we have really high value. Now this number looks a little different than the last slide because we've included fees. So when we did our research to build this graphic, we looked at all the tuition and the fees that you would be paying. So this is our in-state tuition. The next slide is our out-of-state tuition, assuming again that you've moved to Colorado and established residency so that that second and third half year are in-state. So again, top 20 programs here, we're really proud of where we stand and our efforts to try and keep our costs down. We know that student debt is a significant issue, and so we're doing what we can to be competitive, but also keep in mind and be fiscally responsible. When we think of other costs, I mentioned cost to relocate. Like, what if you needed to move from California to Colorado? What if you apply to places that have interviews? Do you need to fly to the interviews, stay in hotels? What about the application process? Natalie's going to talk about how much it costs to apply to programs and living expenses. So please, as you think about where you want to go, not only think of the curriculum and the clinical education structure and whether or not you have research, but you also want to have this financial picture as well. When we think about post-graduation, I want to tell you a little bit about salaries. So really there's 3 most important things that affect a salary. One is where you live. So you see in this picture of the United States how different salaries can be just based on where you live. Some of the highest paying areas are also the highest cost of living. So for example, California is a high paying state, but it's very expensive to live in California. And vice versa, some of the lower paying states may be some of the lowest cost of living. So this is all something to consider when you think about where you want to work post-graduation. The next thing to consider is where you practice. So the setting that you're in, and you notice that the most recent data we have is from 2021, but you can see the difference here. On the, excuse me, the very top is a private outpatient. Excuse me, is 85,000. If we look halfway down, a skilled nursing facility is 102,000. And if we look at the bottom, we have a K through 12 school system, 80,000. So vastly different depending on which setting you're in. But other things to consider. So for example, K through 12 school system, that's like working for a school district. And maybe you're in a third grade classroom and you have summers off because you have the same schedule academic calendar that the students have. So while you may be paid 80,000 a year, you may only work 9 months out of the year. So again, things to consider. Please do your research and understanding what this means. The other thing I want to really point out is that these numbers are all averages of experience in terms of time. So as a new graduate, you can certainly expect to be paid less. And then, you would be earning more and more as your career goes on. So when we see these numbers, these are the averages. You're certainly not going to be starting at these numbers as a new graduate. As far as scholarships, in 2023, and I can report for 2024, we awarded over $260,000, and this is up from just $1,000 in 2011. So we're really proud that in just over about 12 years, we've substantially increased our scholarship fund. We have both prospective and current student scholarship, and we focus on two areas. One is diversity, again, serving our larger Colorado, broad spectrum. So we're looking for broad, are you military experience? Are you coming from rural locations? What is your life experience? We want that breadth of experience, and diversity is a broad term. And then rural, we also, again, are serving our rural communities. So those are two areas that we're looking at for our prospective student scholarships. Available to you now as prospective students are many things. So our American Physical Therapy Association has a financial solutions center that's available to you as a prospective student. Check that out. There's our Academy of Academic Physical Therapy. They have a wonderful website. If you just Google financial aid FAQ for prospective students, they have a lot of good questions and answers there. And then you're also welcome to reach out to our financial aid office. And so, if you have some questions, even as a prospective student, they'd be happy to answer your questions. What questions about tuition, fees, financial aid do we have? Natalie, anything from the chat for me?
Um, Jesse asked if we could go back and look at the tuition. I just let him know that while we don't have time to go back necessarily, all of that was publicly available information from each of those schools on their financial disclosure cost sheets. And also the question about military benefits in regards to assistance. For all of the things that Laura and I have talked about today, when you look for information, and Dan, I'll go ahead and give you the link to our Veteran and Military Student Services, but please remember, it's interesting. All of our students are considered CU Anschutz students. So when you're looking for resources about residency, about military benefits, you'll want to look for CU Anschutz resources. And if you're not sure where to look, please reach out to the admissions office and we'll help you find the right place.
All right, so on that note, Natalie, I'll turn it to you. She's going to talk about the admissions process and our application process.
Excellent. Well, hi, everyone. So let's talk about admissions. So what do you need in order to be eligible to apply to the University of Colorado PT program? The first thing is you need to have a completed bachelor's degree in any field prior to matriculation. And matriculation is just the fancy word for enrollment and starting on the first day. So you can apply while you are a senior in college as long as your degree is completed before orientation the last week of May. You need to have completed all of the prerequisite coursework with a grade of C or higher. You need to have a minimum cumulative GPA of 3.0, and that is based on all previous course attempts. I'll talk about that more in a minute. And if you are a foreign language applicant, you need to have a TOEFL or IELTS of a 6.5 or higher. Now, the GRE is not currently required. However, we are continually reviewing information, and we would encourage you, if you have concerns about your ability to be successful in PT school, to pass the NPTE, to consider taking the GRE, because it is an excellent tool to self-evaluate of your preparedness for taking standardized exams, which you do have to pass in order to be a PT. Now, the GRE will not be required for the upcoming application cycle, but we are continuing to review this, and we will publish on our website if there are any changes to that for our program. All right, moving forward. So a competitive GPA, what is a competitive GPA? For our most recent class, the cumulative GPA when they applied was a 3.63, and the science GPA was a 3.49. Some are higher, some are lower. We do look for strong grades in certain courses like anatomy, physiology, upper division sciences, exercise physiology, and biomechanics. So that's going to mean that while we require a C or higher, a B or above is going to show your preparedness for doctoral coursework. So as we move forward, now there was an asterisk next to that 3.0 on a previous slide. We recognize that there can be challenges sometimes as a part of the college process, illness, learning how to be successful in college, working full time, supporting a family member. If your cumulative GPA is a 2.7 to a 2.99, you may still be eligible for application review if we can see that positive grade trend, which would mean a 3.5 or higher in your last 60 credits. Now, there's a QR code there for the PTCAS GPA calculator. The way that we calculate our grades is based on the PTCAS system, which means that there is no grade forgiveness and there is no grade replacement because not all schools have that. So your GPA may be calculated in PTCAS differently than what you expect it to be from your transcripts. If you have had a grade retake or if you have attended 2 or more schools, you may want to utilize that GPA, that PTCAS GPA calculator to see what your GPA will calculate as in the application process. So what are the prerequisites for the CUPT program? Now we've got 2 classifications. One are those prerequisites on this page. These prerequisites do not have a timeline. There is no expiration. So if you took these 10 years ago, 12 years ago, as long as you pass them with a C or higher, we would consider them as met prerequisites. You need a full year of general or college chemistry 1 and 2 with labs, 8 semester credits or 3 full quarters usually, general or college physics 1 and 2 with labs. You need a statistics class, 3 semester credits, 2 psychology courses, which is 6 semester credits. If you're not sure what to take, we would encourage developmental and or abnormal psychology as 1 or more of your options there. And we need to see an English composition or writing course, 3 semester credits or more. Now, those classes do not have an expiration timeline. But if we look at the next slide, you'll see that we do have 3 groups of classes that do require they be taken within the last 10 years. So the next, and that's within 10 years of matriculation, right? Starting. So for the application process that's about to open up, this would mean you would need to have taken these classes with in the summer semester of 2016 or more recently. I'm still getting used to that math as we move forward here. So it is going to be human anatomy with lab. We would prefer to see upper division if you were able to take that, and human physiology with lab, upper division if you were able to take that. Now, some schools do offer a combined human anatomy and physiology. If you take the 1 and 2 sequence, or if you're at a quarter-based school, a 1, 2, 3 sequence, that will be acceptable as well. And then the classes in blue on the bottom, we require an upper division science class. That's going to be in the 300, 3000 level or above, coming out of biology, physics, chemistry, or engineering. We will also accept to meet that bucket, that category, exercise physiology or biomechanics. We will accept that at the upper or lower division because we understand that not all schools offer that at the upper division. So you'll just want to, if you have any questions, please reach out to the To the admissions office, and we'll help you take care of that. And Brooklyn, you asked, will a stats course taken from a psych department satisfy it? Yes, it absolutely will. If you ever have a question if a class will meet us, please send us a link to the course description from your college's online catalog, and we can evaluate it and get back to you. If it's unclear, we'll ask you to provide us with a syllabus, and then we'll review the content. All right. When you apply, can I have prerequisites in progress when I apply? You absolutely can. However, you can have no more than one outstanding science prerequisite in progress the spring semester prior to matriculation. So for our students that just got accepted, they can have all but one science class completed, and they may be completing one science class. But if they needed more than that, they would not have been eligible. If you got a grade of C minus or below, you must retake it for a higher class or for a grade of C or above. And if you received AP or IB credit from your undergrad institution, if it's listed as a specific class, we may be able to accept that. However, sometimes we will ask you to provide a report from the College Board. You say, I went to school a while ago. Well, College Board got me my reports from 1992, so I know that they can get yours as well. Um, Jesse asked, my human anatomy class is labeled biology. Does that fulfill both requirements? One class can fill one prerequisite, so no double dipping. If you have any specific questions, please reach out to the admissions office. We'll give you the email for that at the end of the presentation. All right. So COVID semesters, if you were in school during those COVID semesters, you may have been at a school that gave out pass-fail grades. We will only accept pass-fail grades during what we consider the peak COVID semesters. So spring, summer, or fall of 2020 are the only semesters when we will accept prerequisites that were passed with a pass-fail grade. Outside of those semesters, if you had an option for a letter grade or a pass fail, you must have chosen the letter grade. If you need more information, you want to take a look at those references about where everything is. Our CU website is a great place. I'll pop in the place where you can go to look at prerequisites into the chat, or the PTCast directory is another source of truth. We're the ones who update that, and so you will know that the information about prerequisites is accurate in both of those places. Those are great places to go for important dates, more about prerequisites, and contact information for our program. What questions do you have? I will be talking about the PTCast application in just a minute here, Dan. Thanks for asking. So we are a holistic review program. We look at a lot of different aspects of you and who you are. Grades, of course, are one aspect of what we look at, but we look at a lot more than that. We look at the rigor of courses that you took and all of these things on this slide. But I'm going to talk about those in a series of slides coming up. And by the way, all of this information is on our website, which I'll put the link to shortly. So let's take a look here. So we look at the rigor of courses. If possible, we encourage you to take multiple upper division science classes. This both challenges you, but also helps you prepare and demonstrates your readiness for doctoral coursework. And by performing well, a grade of B or above is going to be more competitive in the process. Do you have a master's degree? Have you participated in research? Have you worked as a TA or a tutor? These are all things we're interested to know about your intellectual curiosity. So tell us about those things that make you who you are as a student. We look for a positive grade trend, and that can be that 3.5 or above for that last 60 credits. We want to see, did you finish strong in your academic career? There is a question that you can answer in PTCAS in the application. Does your GPA accurately reflect your academic capabilities? Talk to us about that. We're interested to know more about your story. Have you been a part of service opportunities? Is there a perfect service opportunity for you to be a part of? No, absolutely not. We are looking for authentic engagement in things that are of importance to you. What was meaningful to you? How did you help others? How did your engagement impact the community you were a part of? And how did being a part of that community impact you? That could be Greek life, that could be a service organization or a club, it could be an academic group, it could be that you work part-time or full-time as a student. How did being a part of that job impact you, and what have you learned? How did you learn about balancing work and school as a part of that journey? Did you have any leadership roles? And they could be formal or informal. Were you an officer in a club or an organization? Were you a shift lead or a manager in your restaurant or retail store that you worked at? Have you led or planned large events? We're interested to know about you because PTs become leaders within their medical communities, helping make decisions about the care that'll take place for patients. Essays are going to be incredibly important for you as a part of this application process because this is where we get to know who you are. Include personal experience and self-reflection. What makes you stand out? What makes your story interesting? What have you learned? What are you bringing to school and to the profession? Um, Ask other people to proofread it. Someone who is tough like an English teacher who's going to let you know that you need to take out a couple sentences or add more detail. You may be going to a school, or your school may have alumni services in their writing center to be a part of. But the expectation is that essays are written in your own words, not Chat GPT, not by a friend who got into PT school before you. Please make sure that your authentic self is showing through because that is who we are interested in. Observation hours. Now, we the decision to go to PT school is a huge investment of time, energy, and financial resources. And we're interested in what you have done to do that discernment to decide that this is the right place for you to do. We also recognize that if you are working a job, if you are supporting a family, it may be difficult to get a significant number of observation hours. Um, there are a lot of ways to learn about the profession, and observation hours, we consider that, but they are not required. Please look carefully at all programs you are applying to because there are schools that do require a certain number of observation hours. How can you learn about the profession? You can observe a licensed physical therapist, both inpatient and outpatient settings. An informational interview, you can look at the APTA website. They have great information for people considering pursuing physical therapy as a career. You can listen to podcasts. Talk to other healthcare providers. Why do you want to be a PT and not an OT or a speech therapist? Let us know about how you decided that this was the right thing for you. And as we move forward, we do require letters of recommendation. We require 2 letters from individuals who know you well. We do not accept letters from family, friends, or clergy. Um, the most common references we see are from professors, supervisors, and licensed physical therapists. And it is important because your application will not be verified by PTCAS and reviewed by us until all materials are received, including letters of recommendation. So your letters of reference should be completed before October 1st. They complete those online. They can check a box as part of that process saying that you can use that letter of reference for multiple programs. It is fantastic for the people writing those letters for you. Ask early in the process and follow up with them to make sure that those letters get completed. So all applications are completed through the physical therapist centralized application system, which we refer to as PTCAS. PTCAS will open mid-June of 2025 this year. I'm thinking it's going to be the 16th. That's a Monday. And our deadline for completing the application will be October 1st, 2025. Please note that the closing time for that will be at midnight East Coast time and not Denver time. East Coast time for PTCAS when it comes to deadlines. You have to have all your materials in by October 1st, but then you can have your application verified into early November. It may take some time for them to do that, but you want to be very careful and watch your portal and reach out to PTCAS if there are things that are not getting done in your application process. When it comes to that application timing, sometimes PTCAS, if all your materials got in quickly and there are no concerns, We've seen it done as soon as the next day. However, it can take 4 to 6 weeks to verify applications, and we have no control over that timeline. Although the application is due October 1st, we recommend for you to try to get your application in no later than mid-September so that you have adequate time to address any concerns that may be identified. If your application has not been verified by early November, it may not be reviewed by our program. We do not have a rolling or early decision process. We have a single application for our program. You only complete the PT-CAS application. You may apply to other schools that also require you to complete a graduate school application. That is not the case for us. It is a singular unified application. And in that application, you will indicate if you are interested in one path or if you have a priority. So you'll say, I want the residential path only, I'm interested in hybrid only, or I would like residential, but I would be open to hybrid, or I would prefer hybrid and I would be open to residential. The current cost for PT-CAS is $170 paid to the first program or to apply for the first program, and then $70 for each additional program. They have not published whether there'll be a change in prices for this year, but we will update that on our site as soon as that information becomes available. All documents, all transcripts, all letters of recommendation are submitted through PT-CAS. You do not send them to CU unless our admissions team writes to you specifically and asks you to submit that paperwork or documentation to us. Everything goes through PT-CAS. So all official transcripts. Now, this surprises people sometimes. If you took any dual credit, continuing education, any running start, concurrent enrollment, whatever your high school called that, through a community or four-year college while you were in high school, you have a college transcript and you need to submit that as well. Even if you just took one class at a college, it gets submitted as well. The references are completed using the reference form in PT-CAS. Remember, we require two. We will accept up to 3. There is a $25 supplemental fee paid directly to CU as a part of the application process. The link for the website is on PT-CAS. It is also on our website. And this is in addition to the $170 fee for PT-CAS. And remember that $170 is as of the application cycle that has closed. We do not know if there will be an update to that price. All right. If you are successful in the process and invited to an interviews, we do require 2 interviews as a part of our process. Interviews are by invitation only, and all of our interviews are done virtually over Zoom. You will have, if invited to the interview process, you will have 2 interviews with different faculty or clinical partners. They're one-on-one interviews. They're 20 to 25 minutes long, and they all take place during one wild and crazy week in January. So if you are successful in moving forward to that, you'll get communication from the admissions department on how to sign up, and you'll get the links for those meetings in advance. Some facts about our application process. This current cycle, we had 1,285 applications submitted to us. We invited 396 to interview. We are currently still in the acceptance period, so we cannot give you a number for how many will be officially matriculated, but you can see some information about previous years, how many matriculated into each of our classes, how many joined us. And if you do have any specific questions to you, questions about your transcripts, about your history, about what prerequisites you need, please reach out directly to the pt.admissions@cuanschutz.edu email address. That is for both the residential and the hybrid program. We are the ones who answer all of those questions. And if you have case-specific questions, please reach out to us. We are more than happy to answer those. And so at this point in time, let's go ahead and say, see if we have any questions right here. Now let's see. Dr. Canham shares an office, and her coworker is on the phone right now, so she is muted for a couple minutes here. We do not send these slides out. However, we are recording this and the slides. I will be uploading this and it will be posted on our admissions page later this afternoon. So while we do not send the slides out, you will be able to review this presentation to see it as there. Let's see, Hannah, you are asking, do psychology classes count as science courses for the applications? Upper division science classes need to be taken out of the chemistry, biology, physics, or engineering departments. If you have a case-specific question, please email us directly to the PT admissions inbox. 300 invited, but only 200 interviewed and 70 matriculated. What does that mean? That is a great question, Jesse. People apply to a lot of programs. More than one program is what people apply to. And sometimes people have a dream school that they want to, or they have an affordable in-state option. And so they may apply to us and they may have gotten an acceptance at another school. Or they may have just continued to do research and decided that this school may not be the right fit for them. So that's just a part of the application process, no matter what school you'll be going to, is that you may get into that process of application and discover that you got accepted to state university and you're going to be able to pay in-state tuition starting the first semester where you live, and decide that CU is not going to be the perfect fit for you. And so that's just a very standard part of all different programs. So they got an offer with us to interview, or they got an offer to matriculate, but they made the decision to apply to a different school, or to accept or interview with a different school. That is absolutely correct. It's a huge investment of time, energy, and financial resources. And it's important that you find a school that is going to be a positive learning environment for you during the entire process. And we encourage that. What other questions? You're welcome to put them into the chat, but you are also welcome to unmute and ask your question with us right now. Are there specific scholarships available? That is a great question. I did pop that in as an answer to someone else just a minute ago. Let me go ahead and grab that scholarship link, but we do have scholarships there. I think it's important to notice, or to understand, that while we do have department scholarships, there are scholarships outside of schools that you can investigate and research. So I would encourage you to not just rely on school based scholarships, but also to do research about what scholarships are available through private resources. And there's a link to learn more about scholarships right there. Other questions? Now, all of the information I talked about with prerequisites and application are on the webpage that I have just put in the chat right there. So everything about prerequisites and timelines are going to be on there right there. I also saw a question of, let me see, let me copy that link address. Is there a supplemental essay for our application? Yes, there is. We always have one or more supplemental essays, as well as an opportunity for you to cover any information that you feel was not covered in the application process that you would like us to know. Jesse, I'm posting on there our admissions overview website. That is where the presentation will be posted later this afternoon. There is a current recording up there that, well, I think we did 2 months ago, but we'll just update the recording later this afternoon as soon as I'm able to convert that and upload it. Other questions?
Yes, sorry, my chat wasn't
Yeah, hi,
working.
Jason.
This is Jason Foster. Hey, I just had a quick question with the prereqs. So I know you guys said you guys, for especially for anatomy and the physiology within I think it was 5 years.
Mhm.
I took, I'm a bit older, so I took anatomy and physiology, both one and two with lab over 10 years ago. Another school I was looking at, they said their requirement was the 5 year, and they just said to just take anatomy and physiology one, and that kind of covers it. Would I need to take which I'm currently enrolled in? Would I need to take both one and two, or does one suffice that requirement?
Yeah, that is a great question. And is this Jason I'm talking to? Yes. Hi, Jason.
Yes.
Um, so, Jason, that is a great question. Um, we do require that you have those courses within the last 10 years for us of matriculation. So if you did not take those in the summer of 2016 or more recently, yes, we would require that those three classes, anatomy, physiology, and upper division science, that you have those credits within the last 10 years. And if you do have any case specific information you'd like to discuss with us, please reach out directly to the PT admissions inbox so that we can have a more in-depth conversation together.
I'm
Um,
clear then.
yeah, absolutely. And Dr. Canham has also reminded me that PT Preview Day is coming up for us. If you are in the area on April 5th, which is a Saturday, we will be having in-person visits both in the morning here in the CU Anschutz campus in Aurora, Colorado, and in the afternoon at the hybrid experience in Colorado Springs. You can sign up for those. To go there. And Jana, can you change your location? Yeah, just shoot me an email at PT Admissions and I will change your location for that happily. And that was in response to the events where you can speak with current students. Now, on that page with our admissions overview, there is a link where you can request a tour with a current student or request them to give you a phone call. If they're not able to because of classes or clinicals, they won't schedule that with you, but there are opportunities to get in touch with our students, and we will continue to update those on our webpage. And I'm the one who does the webpage, so I know it gets updated on a very regular basis. Other questions? All right. Well, I want to thank everyone for being here today. Again, if you have specific questions, please reach out to our PT admissions inbox. We appreciate you being here today and thank you for considering CU. Have a great afternoon, everyone.